Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to FM23, Newton Heath. This is episode 17 as we wrap up the last season and prepare for the new one, which will be the primary focus of this episode. Let's look back on a few of our strengths and weaknesses so we know what to address going forward. But there's also one key thing that I'm going to be looking for as we run through this page. You'll know when we get there. Okay, so first up, average possession. We actually led the league with 57%. We kept the ball quite well. Headers won, we were just 15th in the league, so you can tell that's one area where we could certainly improve. But our win ratio was best. So we didn't win a ton, and maybe that's because we didn't play as many high balls, but we had the best percentage of actually winning them when we compete for them. Yellow cards, 6th, not as bad as what we had been in season 1, but it certainly was still not a good number. And red cards was 3rd. That one really caught us out. Over form, let's go into more kind of defined stats here. Attacking goals, we were right where we belonged. We finished in 4th. So right near the top of the league for that one. 5 corner goals. That's not bad, especially considering we didn't make significant improvements in the attack throughout the season. We picked up a couple guys pretty late, but it was the defense that got the attention this year. And actually, XG, we were the most creative team in the league. Oh, that is over performance. So actually, it was the other way. Novak, I'm guessing a lot of this is Novak. Novak's quality made a serious difference for us. This is not the highest XG. This is XG over performance, meaning our XG was 57.8. So we should have had 58 goals this season, but we had 78 goals this season, meaning we were 20.18 over that mark, the highest in the league. So we actually exceeded expectations by more than anyone else. And you can see there's not too many that actually were below what was expected. Peterborough Sports in particular are going to be really upset because they were more creative than we were and yet had far fewer goals. Now, overall expected goals for, we were 12th. Now, I think that plays in a little bit more to the quality of the attack that we have than throw in a Lee Novak who can really finish, and you get our end product. When you take out the penalty expected goals, and that was a big one because we certainly gave up quite a few of those, we're right about 50. Which means I don't think we were scoring from the penalty at all. We'll see. Non-penalty expected goals per 90 was just 60th. 16th in the league. And that's definitely not great, 1.06. So I think I know one of our areas of weakness. Penalties taken. So we did take 10, and we scored all 10. So converting 10 for 10 from the spot. So we did have some. Tamworth. Wow. Yeah, that's a good way to win a lot of points. Cross completion, top of the league. But overall crosses completed, one shy of top of the league. So yeah, actually we attempted a lot of crosses with our setup. Goals from corner, just 5. But that's middle of the table, that's okay. Free kicks, 2. Indirect free kicks, 5. And that's good, that's near the top. Pass completion, comfortably top of the league. And overall passes completed. And that's what made a lot of the things happen for us. We kept the ball so much better than anybody else. We weren't necessarily terribly creative, but I suppose you could say we played a bit of tiki-taka and made it work. Because overall chances created, we're not even on the list. We are way down in 20th with 97. 587 shots for. 245 of those on target. So that's a big bump, right? From chances created to shots on target. Now you can see where we're kind of getting somewhere, where our goals versus our XG was so good. Our finishing was very good. Shots on target ratio 41%. And again, confirmation that we keep the ball really well. Only Blythe lost the ball fewer times than we did, and we actually have an extra match. So I think we were number one in that, assuming we lost it at least 5 times in that final game, and considering we did not come out ahead, you know that must be true. And there you go. So here's where things worked out. We had a lot of passes in the final third. It wasn't just keeping the ball in our own end. We did progress the ball, 500 times more than the next team behind us, other than Blythe and us at the top. Now on the defensive side of things, top of the league. But the expected goals against, 50.15, so that's second best. And what did we give up? 47. So this one we were +3. Led the league with 20 shutouts. We were fairly high on the fouls, but again, last year we were number one, way beyond what anybody else had, and we really improved our defense over the course of this season. Last in the league in blocks, though. Be nice if they can get a foot in and help their goalkeeper out a little more often. And overall possession won, only 22nd. However, when you think about it, when we have the ball and possess the ball as much as we do, it means the other team doesn't have it as often, so you're not going to be winning it back as often either. 7 penalties conceded, by the way. And here's another reason why blocks weren't as high. Shots against, lowest in the league. So what we're doing is absolutely working tactically. Okay, and we have finally reached the important stage. This is the one that I was waiting for. It's the last one on the list, and that is team salary. I'll get why this is important in a moment, but Kidderminster led the league with right at about 1 million, $750,000 for Kings Lynn, and then down to a third. I mean, just like that, it really, really drops off after those top two. Really surprising that Kidderminster struggled as much as they did based on how much they are spending. But there's the important note. Why? Because, well, first off, we were the only team not spending. I know my face cam is right in front of the bottom here, but above us is Buxton at $175,000, Hednesford at $189,000, and then 200 plus for everybody else on the list, most of them in that 200 to 300 range. We were the only amateur side with literally no money spent whatsoever. But now that we have turned professional, we are going to have to start negotiating some contracts. We're going to have to start locking down some players. And I want to set a salary that is, let's say, manageable. So I think we're going to try to bring the number down around, like, say, a Kings Lynn or somewhere in between those top two and everybody else level, and start from there, because we already have a pretty competitive team with the roster we have. So we're going to try to set 500,000 to 600,000, I think, for a target. So here's what I'm talking about and why we just made that venture. Right now, our payroll has been assigned. We have 0 transfer budget, but we have a 5 million payroll. Now, when you start negotiations with players, the way the coding works is they're going to look at where they see themselves as a player. So if they are a star player, they're going to want a fairly significant chunk of the payroll. Makes sense. They are going to see what you have to spend, where they fit in the hierarchy, and then take that as a percentage. And then if that equates to the kind of money they're looking for, then bam, you negotiate a deal based on that. That's where the numbers come from. They don't come out of nowhere. They really come off of a comparison of where that player ranks and what your overall payroll is. So if they are a squad player, fringe player, they're going to take a pretty small chunk, but it's out of what your payroll is. So if our payroll is listed at $5 million, a first team player is going to want a chunk of that $5 million. And you're instantly going to have somebody that's wanting to get paid, $300,000. We're looking at clubs that their entire salary is $300,000. So keeping payroll at $5 million is a disaster. Disaster waiting to happen. But do that. Oh man, that's as far as we can go. Okay, we're looking at a potential payroll budget of $4 million. We cut it down by $1 million anyway. That's unfortunate that that's all we could do. I could tell you right off the bat that we are going to be a club that's paying too much for the players that we are going to have. But that's a start, at least. Now, the other thing, now that we're here, the board has turned us professional. And even though we just asked the board a couple weeks ago, and it may be too soon to ask things just yet, but if it's not, we're a professional side now in the 6th tier and have none of the things that those around us have. Not everybody in this level is professional, so we're actually ahead of some of them at this point. Let's see what we can do. Can we get the increase to junior coaching budget? Also, here's the thing. One, I have a fairly decent sized roster now, as we brought more in than we lost over the course of last season. I am going to thin that out a little bit more as time goes on. But again, none of these guys are paid. So if they're here and they're not causing issues, what's the problem? Why would I bother eliminating guys, when it's not necessary, when they're not costing me anything? But here's that tricky thing. Suddenly they're going to start costing me something. But it didn't happen magically. We didn't just set a round number and suddenly everybody is getting paid. They are all still not applicable for salary. But that also means they are free to be taken from everybody else. I do believe that as amateurs and non-contract, they're only going to get 2 days of training. They've got to be a full-time player to get full-time training. But we don't need a full-time training, especially when we have training of one. We have coaching that is almost non-existent. We just need quality players. So realistically, most of these guys are not going to get signed to a contract. In fact, pretty much this entire bottom half, no contract offers coming for anyone 2.5 stars and below. Why bother? Why? I mean, seriously. If somebody takes them, oh no, big whoop. I will find a replacement. I'll have to pay the replacement, but I will find a better player to replace them. So that already puts us into, here is your, top 12, 13 players. I'm still not going to offer a contract to all of them. But you better believe that Charlie Wilson, Oliver Hammond at 19 and 21, and Tierney at 19, quality players for this level, I don't want to lose them. Those are hot commodities that I bet you if we look, wanted. Not wanted, but also wanted. Wanted by a lot of teams. So Charlie Wilson is a hot commodity and somebody's going to offer him money. So if we don't sign Charlie Wilson, we will almost certainly lose Charlie Wilson unless the 10 teams that all offer him money, unless he decides that he likes it here more than there. But he knows, in the back of his mind at least, somewhere in that coding, he is aware that we are now a professional side. And therefore, what we're paying him versus what we could be paying him and what they're all offering, right? It is not a good scenario for us to be in. So there's the first guy that needs to get offered a contract. And he is the one star player left on the roster, except for Ebanks. And I think it might be time to part ways with Ebanks. Even though he had a pretty okay season, we could do better. And because of his classification as a star player, the AI keeps playing him. And he performed okay. And we did finally find some of those better options, like Chadwick. Now, just for kind of setting the tone, the knowledge, this is where he is seen. And this is really showing that progress we've made. He is a Vanarama national standard player. Okay, what does that mean? That means he is good enough to play in the 5th tier. He is good enough to play for Wrexham, for any of those teams there. He's good enough to play alongside real life Ben Tozer now. So Charlie Wilson is good. He is very good for our level. We've picked that up enough that at least our top guys are above where we're at. And we did that without paying him. But it's time. It's time. So let's start with him and go from there. First thing, that chunk of money is going to depend on what his playing time guarantees are. If I can talk him down to a regular starter, he's not going to demand as much. So we're going to start there, and he accepts that by having in other things like getting promoted and adding attackers. It helps push that over the line. So he has accepted. So already the star player designation goes away. All right, and here is our first deal in place. Of course, we don't know for sure that he will sign on just yet, but I'm assuming he will take it, as he's going from totally unpaid to making $35,000 a year. 2-year deal. We don't want to do too many long deals, as I do think we're going to start climbing the ladder here at some point. Do things relatively quick with that. So shorter deals are good. Normally I'm always thinking about longer deals, but that's not necessarily a good thing, especially when money is not going to be a major issue. So I feel confident that we can actually overpay for players. That doesn't mean I want to overpay for players, but it's not going to be as big of a concern as it would be in a normal playthrough where finances are always tight. Hammond demanded star player treatment, but that puts him at $50,000. So now we kind of know what's the bar for $50,000, or for a star player, that is. And we got Tierney signed up for 23. So those were the first 3 guys that I was really keen on keeping. And of course, the reason for that is they are our 3 best players, and they are our 3 youngest players. Now, Parrott, Chadwick, Cooper, Hugill, I will probably offer them something rather soon as well to get them locked down. Now, the older guys I'm not as concerned about. They're going to be more temporary within the side, so leaving them at risk to be taken, well, there's 2 reasons to accept it. 1, leaving them at risk to be taken by another side if an offer comes in, I'm not as bothered by because of their age. And 2, again, because of their age, getting them to training every day, 5 days a week, isn't very important. Why? Because they're not going to develop anyway. They're going to see more injuries. They're going to, suffer more fatigue, all just to maintain their level. When, as an unpaid, which saves us money, amateur, they come in and play 2 days and play the match. It's going to help them stay fresh longer. It's going to help them see fewer injuries and actually remain useful to our side. So realistically, I think, our 3-star and above guys that are under 25, I will probably get all or most of them signed on. And then that's probably going to be it from this entire roster. And then I will, like last year, go through scouting, but this time we can actually start offering money to players as a professional team. I'm wondering what that's going to do when I go look in scouting, because I have not done so yet, but I would imagine a better quality of player is going to be more interested in signing now than before. And we could find ourselves with potentially, maybe, hopefully, a team that is capable. Quick news updates. I've only gone forward 2 days, but I'm active now, starting the off season. Even though really the playoffs are actually still ongoing, they still have the at least the final to determine who's the other team going up. But the junior coaching budget request accepted. So now that we are professional, suddenly they're going, okay. Reason we're in good form. You've played a big part in making that happen, so we're happy to grant you your request. So our junior coaching budget has gotten better. So we're going to produce some better players, but it's a big combination of factors. We're going from basic academy coaching to fairly basic academy coaching. For that one, it's only one step up, but this one isn't a 1 to 20 range. Your coaching budget has, I think, 6 stages. Your youth level again has 6 stages. It's the other areas, facilities, that are 1 to 20. So for this one, it's one step at a time. But I also did take 4 of the weakest guys and eliminate them off the roster because there are too many there. We don't need this many players around, unpaid or not. So trimming things out a little bit to prepare for the new season, because that is another factor that goes into whether a player wants to sign for you or not. What's the competition at their position? If there's already a depth chart with 8 guys on it, they're less inclined to want to join, even if they're going to come in on the upper end of that depth chart. Because presumably, and in the back of your mind, if you're a 28-year-old at the height of your career and you're only second or third on the depth chart, and then there's 20-year-olds and 16-year-olds that are not quite as good as you, but just behind you, you figure their career projection is going to bring them up and not the other way. So your situation's only going to get worse. So depth chart is important. So eliminating some of those players at the bottom can actually make a really big difference on outside interest on whether guys want to sign for your team or not. But in the meantime, one of those 4 guys that I have let go is Adam Bale, who was the last one on the entire roster, the only 1.5 star player that we had at all in comparison to everybody else. And Adam Bale has been the captain for the last 2 years. I did not want to eliminate him in the middle of the season and deal with that. Now, in May, there's plenty of time for the club to go, yeah, okay, I can get used to a new captain and keep that team cohesion alive. So that's why I waited till the end of the season. Novak is the current vice captain, and this is actually exactly what I wanted to do after I was checking into it. Novak is going to remain the vice captain, and especially as he himself is a guy who finishes really well, but otherwise is not actually that great of a player. I'm curious what we might do if we find a really good striker. Will they do as well as he has? Can they do more? Because Novak's a finisher, but he himself wasn't getting any assists or anything like that. But we'll keep him as vice captain, and new man, and definitely one of our quality players, Ben Tozer, will take over as captain. And he is a player coach, by the way. And by the way, I did finally go in and fix tactics where he's our long throw guy now. Next thing, now that we're in off-season mode also, is I need to get better as a coach. We've seen how truly terrible I am, so coaching badges, good thing. Very, very good thing. So let's see if we can get a coaching course started. And no surprise, that was instantaneous. They have approved that one. It's going to take 4 months to get. And, I mean, we're talking about literally no cost, $700. Not literally. $700 is not nothing. Even in real life, that's definitely not nothing, even for me. But in terms of, club with $10 million in the bank, it's peanuts. Scoring 4 in the first half hour, Boston United cruise over Kings Lynn to be the second team promoted, finally wrapping up our season. Let's also go ahead and take a look at the other leagues and see how things have carried out this year. In the South, Worthing and then Ebbsfleet, 5th team, manages to get through on just 76 points. Much closer in the South than it was in the North, too. So we are at a little bit of a different teams on different levels. And in the National League proper, Spennymoor, Dorking, Havant, and Waterlooville, and then Hampton and Richmond are the 4 that are coming down. So 2 of those will be coming down to the north. Final still has not been decided, but favorite Rochdale will not be involved in the final. But Chesterfield is the one who has gained automatic promotion with just a 2-point separation. Close battle. Of course, Wrexham were the title holders. They did win it last season, and of course that last season is this season in real life. And last I checked, they are still on top of the league, though also very close. League Two just into the playoffs, but they have finished their regular season at least. Salford United going up along with Exeter and Colchester. Swindon Town and Barrow going down. Bolton and Barnsley already gaining promotion from League One. And from the Championship, Nottingham Forest along with Brighton. Brighton, surprise relegation there. Didn't think that that's a team that would be going down, as they are a quality side. Crystal Palace, Coventry, Blackburn, and Sheffield United vying for that 3rd spot, with Preston, Rotherham, and Blackpool going down. And in the Premier League, season has just wrapped up. Watford, Norwich, Burnley, the unlucky ones to be relegated, with Watford on actually both 4 teams. 4 teams tied on 33 points. Southampton and Leeds United surviving on goal differential alone. Wow, that is close. That is close. And of course, the what's that magic number in the Premier League? Isn't it 36? 36 being the magic number. Everton, 13th this year. Leicester at 11th. West Ham, 10th. Chelsea, just 9th place for them. And Tottenham is 8th. But they are qualified for the Conference League, so I would imagine that they have won one of the trophies, maybe the League Cup or something like that. Aston Villa, 7th. Newcastle making their way now firmly into that, top 7, but only just kind of making their way in there. But Manchester United was 5th place, 2 points shy of Arsenal, who finished 4th. And it is Wolves. There's your big surprise of the year, is Wolves all the way up in 3rd, making the Champions League. And somehow Arsenal is only qualified for the Europa League. Not sure how that is and why these haven't been designated. Probably because we don't have our FA Cup final yet, probably. That hasn't been played out, so they haven't finalized who is in what position for next year. So I'm assuming that's why we still have kind of one vacancy remaining on that one, or why we still have vacancies remaining. But Man City, 2nd place this year. The same 2 are well ahead, but it is Liverpool on just 1 loss all season at home to Aston Villa. 12 draws though, but wow. 87 points for the championship. That is Liverpool. Turning professional, I have no idea if it had anything to do with it, but just that end of season has seen us jump well over 200 on that reputation. But again, we're still a couple thousand behind the reputation of those around us. So we're still really lacking in that area. It's not going to happen anytime soon. Now, winning the league can see a pretty healthy boost to that. It would see us jump up, but it's going to take many, many years to develop a reputation. It doesn't just happen. You don't just suddenly have the reputation of those clubs around you. It's built. A lot of these clubs are well over a century old. Most of them are well over a century old. And so reputations just, they don't happen overnight. And so we have to be patient with that. But success would lead to a much more rapid development of that. But turning professional, I think, is going to play a factor. We should see it next season grow quite a bit more than what we've seen it grow in the first 2 seasons, or at least that's what I'm predicting. Now, at this point, it's only May. We're going to be entering June. We've got a while yet before the proper free agency happens, where all those contracts expire and players go out there, and we don't have expiring contracts, because we have a bunch of amateur guys that can be signed by anyone, and anyone that I offer a contract to can also be offered a contract by anybody else as well. So I actually, by offering, I run the risk of losing the players, as they could potentially be drawn in by somebody else offering more. But looking at our level and what everyone's being paid, theoretically, we could and should and probably will be offering more than what it is that they would be making at these other clubs. So where if we're offering 30,000 to a player, they're probably only getting offers of about 15 at others. But the reputation is still a factor in that offer. You know, they were staying with us before based on, I don't know, playing time. Why they were staying here, what that decision making was, I don't know. But we are seeing that estimated value again grow rapidly. It's already gone up by another 20 million just in the last couple of weeks of the game, as we have turned professional now. We've got a lot of work to do to prepare for the new season, and of course we're not even to preseason yet. So our next episode will be focused on squad changes and the preseason. I probably will not be pestering the board, at least for a little bit, not until we get into that preseason mode. Unlike last year, where our preseason matches really didn't turn around much money. We were having to offer itty-bitty clubs and mini divisions below us, because that's where our reputation was, 20,000 to come play, and then we'd make 25,000 for the game. We were, turning a profit of like 5,000 in those games. With New Trafford, I would imagine we are not going to be having to offer more than what we're already offering, but maybe that's the case. But we should be, still seeing a decent crowd out of our 75,000 seat stadium. If we have 30,000 people coming to watch that, then actually our preseason can be profitable. But that's going to be that next instance. In the meantime, we're going to be sitting for a month and a half here without any games, and we're going to see that balance drop off a little bit. It's an expensive stadium to maintain, but I don't see us suddenly running short of money or anything like that. We're going to be just fine as we navigate this off season. But I'm going to navigate this off season for at least a month and a half to 2 months before we start up the next episode. That is going to do it for this one and wraps up this season. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.